If Godzilla appeared in your city, you would either have one of two reactions. Oh man, it's Godzilla. We're doomed. Or, oh thank God it's Godzilla. We're saved. And I don't know about you, but how many of your favorite characters can you say that about? Can we say it about Spider-Man, Iron Man, Batman, or even the Joker? Yeah, I know I mostly named Marvel or DC characters, but just go with me on this, alright? A lot of these characters usually stick to one side of the spectrum or the other. A hero, an anti-hero, or a villain. Godzilla, though, seems like he's been across the whole spectrum. In his 70 plus years of films, TV shows, and comics, he's remained relevant and ever-changing. So how exactly has Godzilla outlived so many other franchises? And why does he continue to win awards in the hearts of millions to this day? Well, the question can't be answered without looking at how Godzilla changed and evolved with the times. So, let's start at the beginning. The year is 1954. It's almost 10 years after the end of the Second World War, but the effects were still being felt.
A better world shall emerge out of the blood and carnage of the past.
After the war, Japan was under an occupation by the Allied powers. Press censorship remained a reality during these times. Political matters and criticisms of democracy were shot down quickly. This was especially true for the victims of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It was 9 years since the United States ended the war in the Pacific by dropping an atomic bomb on Hiroshima and then Nagasaki only 3 days later. The bombing killed 210,000 Japanese citizens, 2/3 being women, children, and the elderly. Radiation being the primary cause of death. Victims of radiation had begun to experience physical changes as a result, and they were unable to speak out against the results of atomic weapons. Their silence only grew as more nuclear tests sprung up throughout the coming years. Many of them lived in isolation because of their inability to speak out and assimilate to society. Many people in Japan felt like the danger of nuclear weapons needed to be spoken about, but in what way could they deliver their warnings? By 1954, it had only been 2 years after the end of the US occupation in Japan. Japan had begun to regain its sovereignty. The best way to deliver such an impactful message was under the guise of a sea monster movie, thought producer Tomoyuki Tanaka at TOHO Studios. Inspired by the beast from 20,000 Fathoms and the Hollywood film King Kong, Tanaka hired Shigeru Kayama to write the story, Ishiro Honda to direct, and Eiji Tsuburaya as the special effects artist. Thus, the 1954 film Gojira, or Godzilla, was born. The film begins with a fishing boat bursting into flames mysteriously, a reference to the real-life nuclear accident involving a Japanese fishing boat, the Lucky Dragon No. 5, who had its crew exposed to nuclear fallout from a US nuclear test. Throughout the film, similar ships fall to the same fate, yet until the residents of an island are attacked by an enormous creature that scientist Dr. Yamane begins to investigate. Upon the discovery of an ancient arthropod within a radioactive footprint, Dr. Yamane concludes that this creature is of prehistoric origin, mutated and awakened by hydrogen bomb tests. This point is driven home further by Godzilla's design. His skin resembles the skin of radiation victims. Godzilla's trademark roar being loud, terrifying, and painful. Godzilla's superpower, his atomic breath, destroys and sets ablaze anything it touches. Godzilla's powerful, aggressive, and destructive. He's invulnerable to anything the military can throw at him. Godzilla eventually emerges and destroys downtown Tokyo in a sea of fire, killing hundreds of innocent people, invoking imagery of Japan's history with fire bombings. Now, I won't completely spoil the movie for those who haven't seen it, but it does drive home the theme of nuclear weapons and the horrors of deadly technology. It was no secret that Godzilla resonated with Japanese audiences upon its release. TOHO Studios quickly began a sequel, Godzilla Raids Again, made in only 5 months, where Godzilla reappears in Japan and fights another giant monster named Anguirus, slightly ditching the nuclear themes of the first movie. It was then that Godzilla took a break from the big screen for a while, until his next film, 1962's King Kong vs. Godzilla, which became the highest grossing film in the series. The movie being about a TV producer sending an exploration team to a remote island. It's until Godzilla emerges from hibernation that the TV producer orders the island's god, King Kong, be taken back to Japan to fight Godzilla for publicity. This film mostly being a monster brawl, but containing hidden themes of clashing cultures, unchecked ambition, and an overall satire of commercialism.
新聞、ラジオ、テレビ、週刊誌、みんなゴジラゴジラゴジラゴジラ。
No more. I'm sick of Godzilla. Send a wire. Immediately.
Oh yes, right away, sir.
I want my own monster. Find me a monster, fast.
The films became more monster versus monster, but still had the core themes hidden within, to a much lesser extent, such as themes of greed.
我が社が買い取ったんだ。買った？これやな、オラチの玉で取れたもんだで、当然オラチのもんだ。この通り領収書。
The space race in the 1960s was just kicking off as the Soviet Union and the United States began to launch satellites and people up into space. A lot of excitement came with the space race, but so did a lot of fear. In 1964, Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, was made.
TOHO が生んだ大怪獣スター。
In this film, Godzilla, along with other monsters, Rodan and Mothra joined forces to save Earth from a three-headed alien invader called King Ghidorah, the three-headed dragon representing the world's fear of invaders from space. This film and the following one, Invasion of Astro Monster, deals with the battle between Earth and the extraterrestrial. Godzilla special effects artist Eiji Tsuburaya went on to create his own special effects studio, which created a very popular TV superhero show called Ultraman in 1966. The show had its giant hero, Ultraman, fight evil monsters in a futuristic and optimistic environment. Children and adults enjoyed seeing a superhero fighting monsters and aliens on their TV screens. And it was soon that TOHO Studios quickly took notice. In the late 60s and early 70s, Godzilla films started to shift more towards kid-focused themes, giving Godzilla a son, making more monster battles, and even having themes of confronting your bullies.
Godzilla says we have to fight our own battles and not be cowards.
Godzilla was slowly becoming a hero. By the 70s, Japan had grown into its industrial period. An ugly problem soon reared its head: pollution. Air pollution and smog was a growing issue everywhere, not just Japan. 1971's Godzilla vs. Hedorah tackled the problem of pollution. A monster made of toxic sludge named Hedorah appears. It takes nuclear-powered Godzilla for Hedorah to meet its match. The movie explores the catastrophic cost of humanity's environmental irresponsibility under the mask of a sludge monster and some trippy visuals. Hedorah is eventually beaten by Godzilla and the power of electricity, perhaps a call for clean nuclear energy and electric energy. In 1973's Godzilla vs. Megalon, it even featured its own Ultraman-like character, Jet Jaguar, a robot that teams up with Godzilla to save Earth from Megalon and Gigan. It's also worth noting that some of Godzilla's silliest moments come from this movie. For the next two movies, Godzilla would fight a robot doppelganger named Mechagodzilla, which would eventually bring the series to a close in 1975. It was from then on that Godzilla movies took a break for a while, that is, until 1984's The Return of Godzilla. The Cold War between the Soviet Union and the United States was slowly coming to a close by the 1980s, as the Soviet Union eventually collapsed in 1991. But nuclear fears were returning to an all-time high. These fears were only exacerbated by the Chernobyl nuclear reactor disaster of 1986. The Return of Godzilla brought the character back to its roots, a nuclear-powered creature attacking humanity. The film depicts Japan caught in the middle of Russia and the United States fighting, until it culminates into the emergence of Godzilla. The themes being the power struggle between two large nations and the existential dread of nuclear weapons. Seemingly, Godzilla was back to representing Japan's biggest fear: nuclear weapons. The following film, in 1989, Godzilla vs. Biollante, also had very topical themes. The new science of genetic engineering had just come about, and so did the world's fears of it. Enter the monster Biollante.
あれはただの植物ではない。ビオランテだ。
植物にゴジラ細胞を融合させただけじゃない。人間の細胞まで。
自己再生能力の遺伝子を持ったゴジラ細胞で永遠の命を持つ植物を作ったつもりだった。
A monster created by a failed attempt to combine the DNA of character Dr. Shirogami's dead daughter between a common rose plant and Godzilla's regenerative cells. This genetically engineered terror towered over Godzilla in the debut movie, and despite having a violent personality, it was a tragic being in the end.
本当の怪獣はそれを作った人間です。
Subsequent films of this series dived into monster battles more, but still did touch on popular themes of the time, such as themes of humanity, time travel and technology,
Using the Earth Union's time machine, we've been sent back here to warn you all.
and revenge for past mistakes, just to name a few. It seemed that the Godzilla series was to end once again, but this time it was to be handed off to Hollywood for their go at the giant monster.
This creature was believed to be one of the largest predators who ever lived on our planet.
Godzilla, a Hollywood blockbuster directed by Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin, was released in 1998. The response from some fans was less than happy. The film depicts Godzilla being a mutated iguana caused by French nuclear testing, who rampages in New York only to be killed by the military in the end. The crew who made the original Godzilla seemed to be very critical of the film. The man who played Godzilla in previous movies walked out of a screening, stating, "It's not Godzilla. It doesn't have his spirit." A director of a future Godzilla film stated that it is interesting that the US version of Godzilla runs about trying to escape missiles. Americans seem unable to accept a creature that cannot be put down by their own arms. By 1999, TOHO Studios began to produce Godzilla films again, this time leaning more into an anthology. Godzilla goes from an anti-hero in his first two films back to a spiritual evil menace who reminds Japan of its troubled past, and then back to an anti-hero. After the 2004 movie Godzilla Final Wars released, Godzilla would take another break from the big screen until 2014, when Hollywood tried its hand at making its own version of Godzilla again. Godzilla, directed by Gareth Edwards, released in 2014, took the themes of the original Godzilla and slightly modernized them. The dangers of nuclear weapons was still as apparent as ever, but themes of controlling nature and embracing it took more priority.
The arrogance of man is thinking nature is in our control, and not the other way around. Let them fight.
The film was received very well, and more Hollywood Godzilla films were on the way. Much like the original Godzilla, the newer movies catered to those who wanted to see Godzilla fight other monsters. Eventually, it was Japan's turn to take another crack at Godzilla. Shin Godzilla, released in 2016, was a film directed by Hideaki Anno and Shinji Higuchi. The film was a modern return to form for TOHO Studios. The film drew inspiration from the 2011 earthquake and tsunamis, which killed over 18,500 people. It also drew inspiration from the subsequent nuclear disaster at Fukushima nuclear power plant and the political response to it. Shin Godzilla deals with politicians struggling with bureaucratic red tape and politics when a giant monster emerges. Shin Godzilla brings the recent fears of political inaction and nuclear accidents back to the main stage, showing scenes of destruction that represent those of the previous tsunami. The film also criticizes the government's inability to act decisively or stand up to foreign pressure. Godzilla only being combated by young talent and creativity. And now we come to present day. Legendary Studios continues to make big-budget, entertaining Godzilla movies, and TOHO Studios is still making their own Godzilla films, such as 2023's Godzilla -1. A film which addressed the same original themes, such as nuclear weapons, but also incorporated new themes of anti-war, trauma, hope, guilt, and redemption. -1 offered a fresh perspective on how Japan's attitude was right after the war. Set in 1947, it deals with a Japanese soldier who didn't want to throw his life away to die in battle. He is met with guilt and criticism by those around him, but has to put it all aside to tackle a bigger issue, that of a returning creature known as Godzilla. The film deals with valuing life and how being careless with it can affect the population, specifically drawing at the Japanese government's treatment of its citizens during the Second World War.
家族と過ごしてください。
覚悟しろってことですよね。
思えばこの国は命を粗末にしすぎてきました。脆弱な装甲の戦車、補給軽視の結果、餓死、病死が戦死の大半を占める戦場。戦闘機には最低限の脱出装置すらついていなかった。しまいに特攻だ、玉砕だと。だからこそ今回の民間主導の本作戦では一人の犠牲者も出さないことを誇りとしたい。今度の戦いは死ぬための戦いじゃない。未来を生きるための戦いなんです。
-1 was met with widespread critical acclaim, even in the United States. Audiences had appreciated its drama mixed with its fantastic visual effects and great storytelling. The film even managed to win an Oscar for Best Visual Effects, the first of its kind.
Godzilla!
So, what does this mean? Well, for over 70 years, Godzilla has stood as powerful as ever, and as popular as ever. Starting from a metaphor for nuclear weapons, Godzilla as a series evolved into multiple different things, each with their own relevance. Godzilla will always be as relevant as long as his films continue to tell relevant and new themes as the years go on.
So this is goodbye now, you dare to leave me. How would you go? I don't wanna cry, but the tears come freely. I miss you so. Somewhere in the world you might find the answers you're looking